Great, thank you again. So welcome everyone. Welcome to today's presentation on the request for concept papers process. There are 3 staff on the line with you today from the Corporation for National and Community Service. You can see myself, this is Barbara Reynolds. I'm the face on the far right side, and I'm joined by 2 other colleagues from CNCS who will introduce themselves in just a moment. I also want to indicate that we have 2 colleagues from LSI on the line with us today. You heard Kim Adams' voice a moment ago, and you may have seen Jeff Banas typing away in the Adobe Connect screen. So just wanted to say, give a shout out to LSI and let you know that they're here to support you today as well. So as I said, I'm Barbara Reynolds, and I'm the director of the VISTA Training Unit, and I'm very excited to be with you guys today and with my colleagues Melissa and Robin.
Hello everyone, I'm Melissa McNeely, the Program Impact Specialist with AmeriCorps VISTA. I'm excited to kick off our Request for Concept Papers webinar and answer your questions.
And good afternoon. My name is Robin Corindo, and I'm a State Program Director in Kentucky and Tennessee. Barbara, I'll hand it back over to you so that we can review the webinar agenda.
Great, thank you so much, Robin. So today our goal is to provide some really basic information for you to help you decide if AmeriCorps VISTA is a good fit to help your organization build capacity in your community. We're going to cover, in broad strokes, we'll give you an overview of the RCP, RFCP, Request for a Concept Paper process. We'll take a broad look at our organization, at the corporation broadly, and the national service programs under it. And then we will go a bit deeper, of course, into VISTA, which is the reason for us being here today. As we look into VISTA more deeply, we'll talk specifically about roles and responsibilities. We'll review the VISTA member role, as well as the role and responsibilities of sponsoring organizations. We're going to take a look at the application process and really focus on the concept paper submission, which is the first step of a 2-part process to apply to become a VISTA sponsor. And then finally, we'll share additional resources with you so you can learn when, where, and how to access the great support that we have in place to help you develop a VISTA project. Robin, Melissa, and I are excited to share this information and really hope it will help you decide to take the first step at a concept paper. So just a note about the process for the concept papers. Over the last 25 years or so, our colleagues in the corporation's state offices around the country have been solely responsible for making concept paper and application decisions for VISTA projects. We found over the years that having state-by-state differences, which is natural in any large national organization, in a way has been confusing and may have led to a few inconsistencies or lack of transparency for some of our colleagues. To help address this, VISTA and our state offices worked closely together to revise this concept paper process. We want to make sure with this new process that we provide full transparency regarding how VISTA resources work and how folks access them. We want to make sure that we're trying to work always towards really great consistency in how VISTA projects are developed. And we wanted to make sure to include VISTA headquarters in the review of concept papers so that there's a more holistic view of the full landscape of requests for VISTA resources each year and around the country. So efficiency, standardized processes, and guidance materials are important aspects of any program, of course, and we hope that this process for the concept papers for VISTA is going to be more accessible and manageable for you, our potential sponsors. As you heard in our introductions, Robin, Melissa, and I work for the Corporation for National and Community Service, or CNCS. I could tell from the poll question that we had for you at the beginning, I think a number of our colleagues on the webinar today are new to CNCS, and so we're going to give you some basic information about what our organization is and what the programs are underneath it. And then certainly, as I said, we can answer questions and give you more information as we move along. But just to give you the overview, so CNCS, or the corporation, you may hear us refer to our agency in that way as well. We're a part of the federal government, and our particular mission is focused on service and volunteerism. We engage millions of Americans each year in a variety of services, really trying to push for results-driven service that helps solve problems, solve local problems, expand opportunity for services, expand opportunity to serve in AmeriCorps and Senior Corps, and then really strengthen communities. So those are our very broad strokes, our mission. CNCS provides grants to thousands of organizations each year to engage citizens in all kinds of communities. Many of our grantees and our community partners are national organizations like that you know. So organizations like the American Red Cross or United Way, City Year Teach for America. We partner with public agencies throughout the nonprofit sector. So it could be any number, any level of organization. They could be community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and typically we serve in about 50,000 different locations or sites around the country each year. As I said, CNCS, or the corporation, is focused on trying to really address pressing national and local needs, and in some cases really tackle national priority issues. Things that come to mind when we're talking about the national priorities include combating the opioid crisis, helping students graduate from high school, responding to disasters in every way that they manifest around our country, supporting veterans and military families, and really everything else that you can imagine in terms of our needs. We address these through two broad programs. As you can see on the screen, you see the logos for AmeriCorps and Senior Corps. And just quickly, AmeriCorps is the newer of these two programs. It engages about 75,000 adult AmeriCorps members each year. They provide a variety of direct community service around the country, everything from teaching and tutoring students, providing STEM and financial literacy education, and mobilizing volunteers to help build houses. It is a diverse network of programs around the country. Similarly, Senior Corps is also a very diverse network. It engages about 250,000 Americans who are over 55. Those Senior Corps members provide a range of activities, including tutoring and mentoring at-risk youth, as well as helping senior citizens live independently or live at home. So all of the specific programs under these two broad umbrellas, under AmeriCorps and Senior Corps, all of them share something in common, and that is the dedication and really the reliance on public-private partnerships. Last year, together with our partners, our grantees leveraged over $1 billion in outside resources, which is something that we, of course, that is our mission, and we're very, very proud of that. All of these resources were meant to increase community impact and expand access for resources all over the country and for all of our citizens.
Thanks, Barbara. Senior Corps connects seniors 55 years and older with the people and organizations in their community that need them most. It is comprised of senior companions, foster grandparent, and RSVP, which help people serve in their communities. Last year, Senior Corps volunteers served 74 million hours. They tutored and mentored more than 267,000 children and helped 840 seniors live independently.
Great, thanks, Robin. So we're going to say just a couple more words about AmeriCorps and the three programs that fall underneath that broad umbrella. So as I said just a moment ago, each year there are about 75,000 Americans who serve in some program of AmeriCorps in a variety of projects around the country. AmeriCorps members serve in nonprofits, schools, faith-based organizations, and many, many others, as I noted, providing all kinds of intensive direct service. A lot of AmeriCorps members will serve for one full year. They can serve either full or part-time, so that will vary, and they really are a force multiplier around the country. AmeriCorps is also a pathway to education and employment. It was one of the founding principles of AmeriCorps when it was created. Similar to an apprenticeship, AmeriCorps members earn cash, they earn a living stipend, an education award, while they're serving and while they learn and gain valuable career skills. They also gain great experience in whatever kind of project they're working on that we hope will prepare them for future education and for the workforce. So underneath the broad umbrella of AmeriCorps, that word, there are three particular streams or three particular types of AmeriCorps programs. The first is called AmeriCorps State and National, as you can see on the slides. For AmeriCorps State and National, all of the programs under there have a few things in common. One is that the members who serve in AmeriCorps State and National have to be at least 17 years old. There may be other age restrictions put on them. It depends on the particular program. As I said, many AmeriCorps members serve full-time, and there's also a good number that will serve part-time for an entire year or a portion of a year. And they do provide direct service around the country, as I noted. AmeriCorps State and National provides grants to local programs to administer the AmeriCorps State and National programs in a variety of ways. So the second AmeriCorps program under this broad umbrella is the National Civilian Community Corps, or NCCC. The NCCC, one of my favorites, is particularly focused on strengthening communities and developing the leadership of young adults. They do this by providing direct service in a team-based environment. In NCCC, the AmeriCorps members must be between the ages of 18 and 24, and all NCCC members serve full-time, and they do provide direct service in their community. Another thing that's really cool about NCCC is that they live together on campuses. It's a residential program, so teams of NCCC members will live on campuses. They are deployed within a region or around the country to focus an intensive amount of effort for a short period of time on a problem, and then they move on. So they are a movable feast, the NCCCers. There are 4 campuses where these young adults live and deploy from in the U.S. Those campuses are located in Denver, Sacramento, Vicksburg, Mississippi, and Benton, Iowa. And then, of course, the third AmeriCorps program, where we're going to spend most of our time today, is VISTA, or Volunteers in Service to America. So just want to take a quick moment and hear from you, from folks on the phone, if you have any experience with CNCS and specifically with AmeriCorps, if you've worked with any of the programs I just described in any way, can you just type the name of the program with which you had that experience? So perhaps you're on the phone and you were yourself an NCCC member. You might have worked in an AmeriCorps state program. You may work in one now. Oh, awesome. I'm seeing a lot of typing going on there across the board. NCCC, VISTA, AmeriCorps State and National. Yep, Corinne working with Teach for America or serving with Teach for America. Great, thank you. Yep, Mark is new, very interested in the Senior Corps opportunities. Great, thank you. Yeah, keep that going. It's really helpful for us to see where you are physically. We asked you a moment ago about what state you're from, and then what your experience is with AmeriCorps. So thank you for doing that. Keep typing. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa now to go a little further.
Thanks, Barbara. Now let's focus on VISTA. VISTA has 4 core principles that guide our work and the work that sponsors and members accomplish in their communities. The first principle is ending poverty. A VISTA project's goal is to move individuals and communities out of poverty rather than making poverty more tolerable through short-term services. As a way to empower communities, a VISTA project engages residents of low-income communities in the planning, development, and implementation of the project. To build capacity, VISTA members strengthen, expand, and increase the reach of anti-poverty organizations and programs in coordination with their staff and volunteers. Capacity building is a unique feature of the VISTA program, and it is a resource that's much needed in community organizations. VISTA members build capacity for organizations to address poverty long after the VISTAs are gone. They develop systems, relationships, and knowledge which they transfer to the organization and to the community to sustain them over the long term.
Great, thanks, Melissa. Hey, it's Barbara again. I'm going to jump in and share just a little definition or glossary with you. We want to review some of our key definitions and terms. I did see in the chat just a minute ago when we asked about your experience, a number of folks indicated VISTA. So these terms may be super familiar to you. Please hang on with me for just a minute as I run through them. Just want to make sure that the lingo that we're using is really clear as we keep moving forward. So I think these terms will help you understand our structure if VISTA or CNCS are new to you. The roles, the way that they're defined and how these entities work or these people work is really based on the federal legislation that authorized VISTA. That law is called the Domestic Volunteer Service Act of 1973, or the DVSA. That's a mouthful. You certainly don't need to remember all that, but you may hear us reference back. You may hear us use the acronym DVSA, or we may call it the Act. So I just wanted you to know what we're talking about and where we're coming from. So it's important kind of within that federal framework to understand how the different roles are defined. So a VISTA project specifically means a set of activities that VISTAs do or provide, operated and overseen by a sponsor. The sponsor is just the name that we use for the organization that applies to VISTA and receives resources. It can be a public agency or a private nonprofit, and it receives assistance under our federal legislation. The sponsor organization is also responsible for operating and overseeing a VISTA project. The public agency could be the federal, state, local, or even a tribal government, depending on where we are around the country. A VISTA project director is a staff person, someone of legal age, who's been assigned the role overall of managing the VISTA project, if that makes sense. Pretty straightforward. And our role, the VISTA supervisor, is a person who is face-to-face or one-on-one with a VISTA member. So they are the direct supervisor. This can be at the project level, or it can be at a site or sub-site level for an organization. Project sponsors will determine who VISTA member supervisors are, and they will make sure that those individuals are trained to provide that role. It is important to know, depending on your organization, it's possible that project directors are also themselves actual member supervisors, so these roles can overlap. And as I mentioned a moment ago, and Robin said in her introduction, we do work with field staff around the country who can help develop, support, and facilitate VISTA projects throughout their life cycle. And our state office colleagues are an absolutely amazing resource when applying to become a VISTA sponsor. So one thing I want to really point out too is the difference between VISTA and other CNCS programs. Again, this may be super familiar to you if you're a longtime VISTA partner, but this is such an important point. We really want to take just a minute and linger on it. So this is the only national service program that provides capacity building to anti-poverty programs and organizations. Our work, I think as Melissa said, is meant to expand the scale, reach, efficiency, and effectiveness of programs or organizations. So an example of capacity building versus direct service, which is the term we use for non-VISTA work, would be if a VISTA member created volunteer applications and position descriptions, recruited and placed volunteers, designed a system for recruiting and placing them in a tutoring program, for example. So the VISTA would be creating the background structure for that volunteer program. The goal of a project like that would be for the volunteer management system of the volunteer program to be able to be sustained or to remain in place by the host organization, the sponsor organization, after that VISTA member is completed her service, after she moves on. By contrast, AmeriCorps members in programs other than VISTA could be in a role to provide direct service. So in that tutoring program example I just shared, where the VISTA member is building the capacity of the program, the volunteer program or the tutoring program, AmeriCorps members in other AmeriCorps programs would actually be the tutors. They could work in schools tutoring students directly. They could work with adults and adult literacy programs directly. So again, that's the direct service versus the capacity building. VISTA members do not engage in those types of direct service for community members or in environmental projects. And again, instead they work within organizations to build systems to support and expand anti-poverty programs. So you may not have seen this before. We like to share this graphic just to give you a sense of the kind of cumulative results of what VISTA looks like around the country every year. With all of the different projects we have and members we have, sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around what this can mean at the national level. So this is just a snapshot that shows the VISTA program has every year about 8,500 VISTA members who are serving in about 4,500 different locations, sites or sponsor sites around the country. Through those VISTA members, the organizations and the communities where they serve receive over about $200 million in resources, either cash or in-kind resources. And VISTA members will engage, leverage in some way, recruit and manage about 800,000 volunteers. And I think it's just good to know that since VISTA was created in 1965, there have been about 250,000, about 220,000 VISTA members who've served in the roles that we've been describing to you so far this afternoon. So one thing, again, I think it's very noteworthy for VISTA is that they serve closely with volunteers at many sites and are often instrumental in training them and developing processes to build the capacity and sustainability of those projects.
Great, thanks, Barbara. So I want to just pause for a moment and share with you some of our results so you can dream what is possible through a partnership with VISTA. Each fiscal year, VISTA identifies several programming priorities that potential new sponsors should focus on when developing concept papers and applications. These priorities align with our CNCS focus areas. Currently, under our economic opportunity focus area, there are a number of topical areas, one of which is housing. The Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky is an example of a successful rural homelessness project. And I saw that there were a couple of you from Kentucky, so you may know them in Lexington. The project serves both urban and rural areas, and they have seen great impact in their VISTA capacity building work, particularly in the most rural parts of the state. In the rural areas, it is challenging for individuals to access housing services and to obtain third-party verification of homeless status, which is required to confirm eligibility for some homeless service programs. In some instances, organizations providing housing services are understaffed and under-resourced. In this project, 23 VISTAs recruited 2,155 volunteers who have served over 40,000 hours in the community. As part of this project's resource development efforts, the VISTAs and the VISTA service, they have raised over $738,000 in cash resources and over $880,000 worth in-kind resources. Ultimately, 1,078 individuals receiving housing placement services and 320 individuals have transitioned into housing through this partnership. So those are tremendous results. One of our other examples is for a national program, the United Way Nationwide Intermediary, which started in 2017. It has placed VISTA members in 22 United Way organizations throughout the county where they have increased the financial literacy of over 1,400 individuals and provided another 400 individuals with the training and skills needed to find jobs. And it doesn't stop there. As you know, community work requires commitment and the help of people to achieve success. To continue multiplying their efforts within the United Way and the communities they serve, the VISTAs have recruited 2,100 volunteers. Lastly, they worked in the community and have leveraged $1.3 million in cash and in-kind resources. It's been a tremendous impact across the country. Now I'll hand it back over to Melissa.
Thank you, Robin. Up to this point, we've gone into great detail about CNCS, the numerous programs that are making an amazing impact throughout the country, and we provided some examples of successful VISTA projects. Now that you have a basic understanding of CNCS and the VISTA program, I'll focus on the most important resource, our VISTA members. Over the next few minutes, I'll discuss member eligibility, member activities, and program benefits. VISTA service is a 12-month full-time commitment. VISTA members build the capacity and sustainability of poverty alleviation programs. There are a few things that you should know about VISTA members. First of all, they're members. They are not employees, interns, or volunteers of or with the sponsoring organization, and you should not refer to them as such. VISTAs serve at their sponsoring agency. They do not work there. VISTAs receive a modest living allowance that aligns with the community that they're serving. So what type of individual is cut out to be a VISTA member? While the typical image of an AmeriCorps VISTA member is a highly skilled recent college graduate, a significant percentage of members are baby boomers who bring a wide array of professional and life experiences to their VISTA assignments. A member's life perspectives and experiences provide a unique lens from which they view the world and tackle issues at the community level. VISTA members pursue their assignments for a variety of different reasons, which range from wanting to make a difference and eliminating poverty to learning new career skills and networking. VISTA leaders are also doing great work throughout the country. As leaders, they have already served as a VISTA member for at least a year, or they are a returned Peace Corps volunteer and have gained the skills needed to support VISTA members. The leaders help to recruit, mentor, train, coordinate report writing, and generally support teams of at least 8 VISTAs. They can guide data collection and interpret the data, but they cannot complete the reporting activities for the sponsoring organization. While they can't supervise members, leaders can coordinate, facilitate, and support the efforts of VISTAs in their communities. Now that you know the difference between a VISTA and VISTA leader, let's take a look at what members actually do when serving in their communities. So what exactly do they do? VISTAs provide capacity building to organizations and projects, and they work to empower communities and help lift them out of poverty. This is done in many different ways, based on the sponsor organization, the assignment, the community's needs, and their own creativity. Their outcomes and impact in the communities they serve is invaluable. Members play a significant role in building and maintaining partnerships and collaborating with organizations and stakeholders throughout the project's entirety or for special events. They create programs, systems, and trainings, and they also participate in various aspects of resource development. As you can imagine, VISTA members and leaders participate in a wide array of activities within an organization and in the communities. There are countless opportunities for them to work in tandem with community members to make an impact. While there are many unique projects and activities that are appropriate for VISTA members, there are definitely some activities that are prohibited. So let's take a look at those on the next slide. There are a number of things that VISTA members cannot do per the Domestic Volunteer Service Act that created VISTA. Prior to service, VISTA members must complete the online Terms and Conditions course that details what's provided to members and what is allowed during VISTA service. If a member violates one of the terms or conditions, the supervisor must inform their CNCS field staff contact immediately. The violations have different consequences, and for the protection of the project and of other members on board, it's critical to act promptly. The VISTA program is focused solely on serving American communities, and members cannot work on any international projects. Engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, and engaging in any form of proselytizing during service hours is also prohibited. There are also some prohibited political activities that you should be aware of. A VISTA cannot engage in partisan political activities while in service, such as fundraising for a partisan political campaign at any time, or identifying oneself as a VISTA while engaging in partisan political activities. Along those same lines, VISTAs can't be involved in voter registration as part of their VISTA service. In general, VISTAs cannot engage in or support political activity, religious activity, lobbying, or union organizing as part of their service or while perceived to be serving as a VISTA. So let's move on to the topic of supplanting staff. Members shall not perform duties that should be done or are typically done by paid staff or contractors. The role of VISTA is to build a capacity and to bring communities out of poverty. Members do not typically perform direct service activities except as needed in limited circumstances, such as for training purposes. Now that we've covered the do's and the don'ts of VISTA service, let's review some of the member benefits. If you become a VISTA sponsor, you'll want to know all of the benefits available to VISTA members so that you can support them and inform candidates during the recruitment process. In addition to benefits, which range from a living allowance, non-competitive hiring eligibility for federal jobs, and an end-of-service award, we have many others that aren't listed, such as student loan forbearance, not to mention the fact that only AmeriCorps VISTA service time counts toward federal retirement. This concludes the portion about member benefits. You can find more information about VISTA member benefits on the VISTA webpage.
Great, thanks, Melissa. So at this point, we hope you have a good sense of who VISTA members are, what are allowable activities, and what some of the corresponding benefits are for VISTA members. I'm going to shift now to talk a little bit about sponsor organizations, or our key partners in the field. During this next portion of our presentation, we're going to talk about the program and sponsor responsibilities, and we will hopefully help you think about whether the VISTA program may align with your anti-poverty work. So good to know, if you apply and are selected to be a VISTA sponsor, you would join sponsors from around the nation who are fighting poverty in their communities. So like a lot of folks on the call today. The project director for the VISTA project, or the supervisor of your organization, would be responsible for assigning duties for the VISTA members, and you would need to ensure that your project is in compliance with the federal VISTA policies and procedures. So lots of good stuff comes along with being a sponsor, as well as some key responsibilities. So depending on how your project is structured, it might be the case that you are the main point of contact for VISTA members as well as their supervisors at different sites. The first and most basic program model is a single site sponsor. This refers to an agency hosting a VISTA project at one location or at one site. In this VISTA program model, the VISTA supervisor and the member or members, if there are multiple VISTA serving, are in the same location. By contrast, there's also a project model called an intermediary, and that's an organization that serves as a VISTA sponsor that helps provide CNCS or VISTA resources to other eligible organizations. A lot of times those organizations may not be able to access the VISTA resources on their own. What is always true is that the intermediaries are organizations that have the capacity to submit applications and really help develop the VISTA projects, and they can support specific VISTA sites across a wide geographic area or among a group of organizations that address a common need. So intermediaries provide administrative services, technical support, training, and oversight to those sub-sites. Intermediaries can partner with other organizations to place VISTA members, or the intermediary may place VISTAs at their own chapter or affiliates. So just want to take a second now, hopefully you can see on the screen in front of you, just a question for you, for folks on the phone. Based on what you've heard so far and what you know about your organization, what type of organization do you or would you represent? Would your VISTA project be a single site entity, or would you be looking at being an intermediary? And if you just type that in the chat box, great. I see a bunch of folks answered already. Thank you. Yep, lots of single sites, sub-site of an intermediary, couple of intermediary answers. Great. Thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. Yep, and if you're not sure yet, that is absolutely okay. We know we're starting at the basics on this call, and hopefully we'll be able to give you enough information so you'll know what the next steps are. So I want to thank you very much for that. And no matter what type of organization you indicated in the chat box, there are some common responsibilities that will apply to all sponsors, so whether you're a single site or an intermediary, and we will talk through those in just a minute.
There are numerous responsibilities the sponsor undertakes to help make the VISTA experience positive and meaningful for all of its members. Some of the most important responsibilities involve managing the VISTA members. As a sponsor, you'd be responsible for drafting compelling and eye-catching opportunity listings to announce your position and attract highly qualified candidates. In addition, you'd recruit, screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for service. Recruitment and placement of VISTA members will take place on CNCS's web-based VISTA platform called the VISTA Portal, or My AmeriCorps. To help with your recruitment and outreach, VISTA has developed social media graphics, messages, and other promotional items that you may use throughout this process as well. Successful sponsors also provide an in-depth on-site orientation and training to all incoming VISTA members at the beginning of their service, and they also conduct ongoing training, which includes professional development opportunities. and it's probably no surprise that the best projects offer day-to-day supervision and support of those members. This includes introducing and orienting the VISTA to the community, confirming that members have the space, supplies, and equipment necessary to carry out their service, providing reasonable accommodations to members who request them based on different abilities, ensuring that members' activities are in line with their approved VISTA assignment descriptions, and meeting with the VISTA regularly to discuss expectations and goals and review the project's progress. Effective project management is also an essential part of a successful VISTA project and member experience. There are numerous phases and activities related to planning, implementing, and executing a project. Today I'd like to touch on three main aspects that sponsoring organizations should focus on. First, be sure to develop your proposed project with community members. Leaders and members of the community understand the community's needs and wishes and bring a key perspective into the planning, implementation, and evaluation of your activities. The community's guidance, support, and buy-in are critical to your project's success. Performance measures are also an important part of our work and help to keep us on track. But don't worry, because you can develop the performance measures with CNCS field staff. Staff will help you to refine your ideas and ensure that the community's and VISTA's needs are being met. The performance measures inform the reporting that you'll complete, and the information you provide in these reports demonstrate your project's impact and resource management. It also allows us to provide you with better technical assistance for program improvement. There are several reports that will help you manage your project and inform VISTA headquarters about the project's successes and needed improvements. The Project Progress Reports, or PPRs, are completed on a quarterly basis for the first year of your project. Each report should build upon the previous one. After your second year, PPRs are typically semi-annual, and a transition to that reporting frequency is at the discretion of CNCS staff. The PPR information will be part of your project's official record and will be used to evaluate the project's continuation. VISTA develops PPR guidance to help you create and submit reports completely and on time. If you have multiple sites, you'll need to establish a way to aggregate information or data from members serving at those sites and provide a comprehensive report. The VISTA Progress Report Supplement, or the VPRS, is an annual report that tracks demographic information for your project. It's typically due late in the calendar year, and it's based on our agency's fiscal year, which is October 1 through September 30th. To adhere to this time frame, you'll likely have to track information with your members on a monthly basis to accurately submit this report. You can find a link to an informational webinar and instructions on how to complete this report in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide, which is made available to all sponsors. As a sponsor, you'll learn about cost sharing and its benefits to your program. So cost share is a strategy in which the sponsoring organization pays the living allowance for one or more of its AmeriCorps VISTA members. It's strongly encouraged, and it's an effective way for the VISTA program to reach more local communities across the nation. In a cost share partnership, the sponsoring organization is invoiced by CNCS for the associated member living allowance costs. There are several benefits of cost sharing, which include increasing the number of VISTAs that your agency receives, expanding VISTA resources across the country, showing commitment to the project, and it's also a potential way to extend the life of a VISTA project. Now that I've provided an overview of the VISTA program models, the sponsoring organization's responsibilities, and the cost share opportunity, I'll hand over the presentation to my colleague, Robin.
Great, thanks, Melissa. I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the great questions that are coming into the chat room. Keep them coming. That's a great way to make sure we're kind of talking about what you want to hear. And just for your FYI, Craig Kinnear, who is answering your questions, is in VISTA headquarters in Washington, D.C. So he is there to respond to the questions you pose. So please keep them coming. Up to this point, we have given you an overview of CNCS, the VISTA program, and members' roles and benefits and sponsor responsibilities. At this time, we'll provide a high-level overview of the VISTA application process and the steps that an organization takes to become a VISTA sponsor. There are two steps to the VISTA application process. First, the interested organization submits a concept paper. CNCS reviews the concept paper to gain better understanding of the proposed project and to determine if the activities and the organizations are in alignment with VISTA programming priorities. The concept paper submission deadline for the fourth quarter of this year is July 1st. I will review the entire timeline in just a few minutes. If CNCS approves the concept paper, the organization is invited to submit a full application. As we've said, CNCS field staff are available to help provide technical assistance and guidance during both of the writing of the concept paper and the full application. As Melissa mentioned earlier, the Domestic Volunteer Service Act of 1973 is the federal statute that guides the VISTA program. Each concept paper submitted must adhere to that statute. In addition, the concept paper must align with the VISTA priorities and principles, addressing poverty in the community and empowering community members to participate in project development, implementation, and evaluation. Strong concept papers will also identify how the VISTA service will lead to increased capacity and sustainability, generate public and private sector resources, and promote local volunteer service. Remember to review the concept paper instructions on our nationalservice.gov website to obtain information on submitting the concept paper. In addition, the request for concept paper notice also provides a comprehensive overview of what CNCS is looking for when reviewing the concept paper submission. So we have another question for you here. So if you could answer this in the chat box, that would be helpful. Concept papers are submitted in eGrants and not grants.gov. Have any of you worked for the CNCS eGrant system? Go ahead and type it in there. Keep in mind, eGrants is not the same as grants.gov. So we have a few yeses and a few nos. So if you are part of the National Service family, as Barbara outlined, any of the other National Service programs, those were applied through eGrants as well. So if your organization has been with us, they may have an account already. Great, thanks. Concept papers are submitted in eGrants and not grants.gov, as I've said. So what does eGrants look like, and what are the basics you will need to know in order to submit a concept paper? If you haven't already, you will need to create an eGrants account and follow the steps on the slide to create an account prior to submission. In order to move through the process, you will need your EIN number and the organization's contact information. Once you create an account and log into eGrants, you will go to the lower left side of the screen and click on the concept paper, which is highlighted on the slide. In the next window, you will click on Fiscal Year 2019 AmeriCorps VISTA State New NOFA. And again, that's on the slide there, Fiscal Year 2019 AmeriCorps State New NOFA. You will be asked to anticipate the length of your project. Most projects typically last between 3 to 5 years. Be sure to select a focus area and objectives that correspond with your proposed project. Also, you include a geographical area that will be affected by your project. If you are a former CNCS grantee, there are a few additional questions that you need to answer as well. The next step on the concept paper asks the applicant to complete 4 narrative questions. The narrative questions will allow you to thoroughly explain your proposed project and the community and the beneficiaries that will benefit. In the needs section, you will explain the unmet poverty-related community needs that you propose to address for this project. It is helpful to include data and citations when available. Under Strengthening Communities, we will describe how your proposed project aims to complement or expand the current efforts taking place in your community to address the identified community need. In the Organization Capability section, you should detail your organization's capacity to manage a federal national service program and VISTA members. It's important to clearly articulate the proposed VISTA members' responsibilities in the Organizational Capability section. And lastly, organizations that are interested in becoming intermediaries will answer an intermediary justification question. So here's a helpful hint, folks. Please do not copy and paste the questions into the response box. You should write your responses in WordPad in order to avoid extra characters from appearing in your submission. This will allow you to conduct a spell check on your work. The green check marks in eGrants mean that you have answered and submitted the responses to the questions. If the arrow icon is red, it means the question has not been answered and submitted. Again, be sure to utilize the VISTA program guidance and concept paper instructions when writing the concept paper. Now that we have reviewed the eGrant system and the required fields to be completed when submitting the concept paper, let's take a look at the key dates for the request for concept paper process. Here is the request for concept paper timeline. For the fourth quarter, and that's the federal fiscal fourth quarter, so July through September, concept papers are due July 1st. We understand that this is a short turnaround time. However, most concept papers are just a few pages in length. CNCS staff will conduct a review and notify applications of their decisions. If approved, the applicant will be invited to submit a full project application. To help with the concept paper and application process, VISTA headquarters has developed VISTA guidance, concept paper instructions, application instructions, which all provide information and necessary details and guidance needed to complete both parts of the application. The timeline is a standalone document, but is also included in the request for concept paper notice. Both of these documents can be found on the handout panel in Adobe Connect and on the VISTA website. Once you've submitted a concept paper, CNCS will acknowledge receipt within 2 weeks via email. If VISTA approves the concept paper, the 4 narrative responses included in the concept paper will be pre-populated into the full application. Full applications will also be submitted in eGrants. If the application is accepted, CNCS field staff can help develop the service opportunity listings to begin VISTA recruitment. At the time, the organization will develop VISTA assignment descriptions as well. The VISTA assignment description, or sometimes referred to as the VAD, V-A-D, is the required member position description for each VISTA member. It is also a powerful guide for planning and implementing most major responsibilities, including selecting a VISTA candidate, guiding and supporting members, and assessing members' performance. As part of starting a new project, VISTA also provides online training for supervisors to help them get acquainted with roles and responsibilities. Now that I've gone over the application process, I'll review some of the resources that we also have available. For that, I hand it back to Melissa.
To close out this webinar, I'd like to point out some resources that will help you determine whether your organization would like to apply for VISTA resources. Remember, your local CNCS field staff are your main point of contact to provide guidance and technical assistance when writing your concept paper and developing your project. We have more than enough resources and tools to help your organization get more acquainted with VISTA and help you decide whether you'd like to apply for VISTA resources. One of the most important things you'll need to know is how to contact the local CNCS field staff. You can follow the link included on the slide and find the email, or you can simply type the 2-letter state abbreviation followed by @cncs.gov. Field staff are available to answer questions and provide technical assistance. We've also included the link to the RFCP notice and concept paper instructions. Both will provide information about VISTA and guidance on what to include in the concept paper. To supplement all the information we've provided this afternoon, you may be interested in watching a few videos to give you historical background information and provide context about the VISTA program. You can find these videos on the VISTA YouTube channel and on our website at nationalservice.gov.
Great, thank you, Melissa. So we have got just a few minutes left on our time together on today's webinar. I know that Robin and Melissa and I have covered a lot of ground, a lot of material, and as Robin said, your questions have been wonderful in the chat, really, really helpful, and I think hopefully we've been getting you some real-time answers as we have done that. I want to just pause and see if there are questions you've had that you haven't yet typed into the chat, please take a minute and do it now. We'll try to get those answered for you. I do see Mark asking more about how to learn more information about Senior Corps. And Mark, I can tell you the first place to go is to go to the CNCS website, which is nationalservice.gov. And you will see on that landing page, much as we showed you at the beginning, the two big logos, the AmeriCorps and the Senior Corps logo. Click on the S for Senior Corps, and it will take you to that place where you can learn everything that we have publicly on Senior Corps and learn how to access those resources. So again, you can see Melissa just typed in our landing website for the Corporation for National Service, which is nationalservice.gov. And I'm happy to hear that question and that you're interested in knowing more about the other side of our house, if you will. I did see a couple of questions that were scrolling in, and Mel is raising this question right now about, one question was if these slides are going to be available or if this presentation will be available. And I can tell you right now that you do have in the little panel, the little blue panel you have in front of you that's called Handouts and Files, you've got the slides in there. So if you haven't yet accessed those, please go ahead, put your cursor over the title and download that file so you have those slides and you'll be able to access them once we wrap up today. There was also a question, I think, earlier about the reporting that's done. I know that's there's a lot going on there, and certainly as a federal program, we have a number of layers of reporting that we gather. So I think, as Melissa indicated and Robin indicated, we do provide specific guidance to the sponsors about the deadlines for reporting and the context and the structure of those reports that are required. I think we don't intend for them to be hugely burdensome. They're not gigantic reports that come into us, but they are critically important. So we collect data on a rolling basis. So Robin and Melissa, I don't know if either of you wanted to add more about the reporting question.
This is Robin. I would just add, and let me piggyback it on to someone who was talking about the length of a concept paper. If you're a single sub-site where you may only have 3 or 4 members, your application as well as your reporting requirements are going to be a lot less significant compared to possibly an intermediary agency that might have 20 different partners and 40 members spread across those partners. So the question of how long the concept paper application is coincides with how long your reporting requirements will be, but it all depends on what kind of organizations you come in as and how many VISTA members you have in your space. So I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, everything becomes more complicated, right? The more sites there are. That's really good to hear. There was another question I think came up when Robin was talking through the timeline. The question was, how often are the concept papers accepted for the sponsor organizations? And I'm going to leave it to Melissa or Robin to give that answer again.
Thanks, Barbara. Hi, this is Melissa. So the concept paper, the request for concept papers is a quarterly process, and we have that. The timeline is up on the screen and on the handouts and files panel. And so for this particular quarter, the concept papers are due Monday, July 1st, and then the concept paper decisions will be sent out to those organizations on Monday, August 5th.
Great. Thank you for restating that.
You're welcome.
And I was just scrolling through the chat. I know everyone's probably doing that as well, just to make sure, see if there are any questions that have come in. I see Craig is answering furiously. His fingers are typing. That is good to know. Any other questions that you have? Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
Robin, let me just jump in. You're right. Craig is doing a great job answering those questions. But folks, let me just underscore what you can do. So some of you have had questions about not quite understanding the cost share relationship or wanting to determine if you want a large project or a small project. Reach out to your state office. So Kentucky ky@cns.gov, michiganmi@cns.gov, and that will get to your state office team, and we are here to help you navigate those super specific questions that you have. This is a big, broad picture, right? Big, high overview, as Barbara said. Contact your state office to get down to those really specific questions, and this is what we do to our best to help you get those questions answered as soon as possible. So I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you so much, Robin. And I believe people can reach you specifically, right, at ky@cns.gov or your office?
Yeah, either so ky@cns.gov or tn@cns.gov. And I think I saw a couple people I know in the chat room, so it was good to see some of our community put new potential partners on this webinar as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to note that you're a living person behind that email, which I think is good to you and your team is good for folks to know. And again, I encourage you, as you said, encourage everyone to reach out to your state offices. The amount of wisdom they have cannot be overstated. So with that, I think I see a lot of chatting still going on. We'll leave this open for a few minutes. I do want to be mindful of time and go ahead and transition just to say thank you all. Thank you for making the time today. Thank you to Craig in the chat box and Kim and Jeff on the LSI side, and of course to Robin for all of her wisdom and Melissa for all of her wisdom as well. Thank you guys for taking the time to be with us today. I hope you have a good rest of your afternoon, and I hope that this is we get to see a bunch of concept papers